we'll go back in.
Running remotely, Brett?
We're gonna look and see if it doesn't,
Yeah, nobody jumped in so far, so.
nobody jumped in so far. All right.
Anything?
You'll be good, have fun.
Be good.
Good.
So we had a good meeting last week, I thought.
Oh, last week here, yes. Yes,
We had a good meeting last week,
Yes, we
I thought it was interesting. Couple things I figured I'd talk about, I would give you is I had got a call and then, I guess, Mr. Chad Dukes, fire chief for Valparaiso. They did a study from Baker Tilly back in, 2022. This was, and I'm glad I got this because we would save money.
One thing before you start,
Yeah.
they should introduce themselves.
Oh, yeah,
I'm Donna Miller, it's nice to meet you.
Eric Wagner? Hi. Bobby Russ.
Redstone.
Also, two running for council.
That's right.
So, something kind of interesting, I asked somebody to send me a copy of this because this is some of the information I was looking for alternatives of revenue sources going forward, maybe not now, but so we can have something in our back pocket. So this saves us some money because I think they did it, I don't know, maybe their union did it, maybe the Valparaiso fire territory decided to pay for it, but it's great information for the county to look at because it's, it's all about Porter County and how much, we would get and whatnot.
Now, what tax they looking at?
You talked about a safety tax, right?
Yeah, I've been hearing they're looking at, I think Portage, Valpo are trying to get a civil public safety tax.
Okay, and when we discussed the safety tax, we realized that it would only benefit the individuals that were under the safety realm. It doesn't benefit the county as a whole.
Well, and that was my problem when I did have a conversation with, Austin Bond, and we talked about it, and, I told him, I said, well, and I'll give you guys, if you want a copy.
Because
if
the
you
other
want to pass
problem
this
is
down.
their general fund
I'll
does
give
not
you a
reduce,
copy.
they get that plus.
Right, that plus, but these are, if we get it, let's just say we pass it before October, so they can get it. And I just told Austin, I said, for someone like me, I could say, yeah, I do support public safety, but I don't know what I don't know. Again, like that, it adds to their general fund. We can't take some of that, because like I told Austin, I said, Austin, you do understand the county has roads, we have IT, we have health insurance, we have, ambulance contract. Now that could be covered under here. The ambulance contract could be covered under public safety, because I did read where it's intended uses. It says ambulance, fire.
I think we have like 650 other employees that are not public safety.
Right, but that's what I'm getting at is, so if you use all this for public safety, it's not like you can give them 6, we take 2 or 3 and then use it to, yeah, so
Public safety only.
we're almost gonna have to do something like, and if you look, and I'm sorry, I guess I didn't give you one, you have to digest, I just looked at it for 20 minutes, but, it is interesting, it's a lot of good information. And I think if you look on page 5, there's a illustrative increase in income tax liability. So if you raised it 0.15, if you're making, I'm just gonna go with say 60 grand, it's an annual of $90. If we raised it to 0.2, it's 120, 0.25 is 150, and a 0.5% is 300. The problem is, well, let's raise it 0.5%. I'm not saying it's not needed countywide, but if we're gonna raise something 0.5%, we have to keep in mind that there's a bunch of other employees that we're gonna need to do roads and this and that. So these are all conversations that are gonna have to be had. And this is not something that we're gonna get done in 2 months. This is something that we're gonna have to talk about, digest, have conversations with when we get people in the room and talk about if it's something even feasible. This could be in conjunction with, and that's why I said with my plan of taking some money out of foundation of raising the money, the 2 plans that I offered, I think it gives us a little bit of time, a couple years to be able to, a year or 2 to digest and really understand what the states and the counties are going to be getting from from this tax increase.
Well, the other thing we need to look at is there are different types of lifts, as we all know. And it might be to our advantage just to do a street lift.
Well, so let me ask you a question. There's a note on here that really bothered me. And I will tell you this, right? Let me see what note really bothered. If you go to page. You go to page 6. This is why I'm really hesitant of raising lit, any type of lit, I believe, but these are things that I don't know. Okay, so that's why we have to have a big discussion on this. We can't just go raise the tax and say, okay, it is what it is. Look at the note. Distribution amounts assume no change in the amount transferred to the Regional Development Authority and homestead credits. I understand homestead credits, okay, but the Regional Development Authority, the RDA, who's to say we don't pass this lit?
And they want more.
At 0.5%, which I think is too much because, you know, the counties are, and then they say, oh, by the way, you guys passed a lit. We need another 3.5 million, we need another match, or another $1 million match. Like, I'm not into giving more money to the RDA. That's just out of the question. We don't, you know, we need to protect what we have, and I don't think, unless we can put this in something where it's protected from the state legislature, where they can't grab that money, I think we have to really start thinking about alternates to the public safety tax, or only raising it a quarter of a point instead of a half, because any state legislature that goes and tries taking our quarter point is gonna be, that's a bad look for them. You know, taking our public safety money that we tried working for. And again, these are just options. This is something I believe the police and fire departments were looking for, and this is all stuff that's gonna have to be vetted, talked about, and see if it's something that the public's willing to do, wants to do, and quite frankly, even has the capacity to do in today's, hey, Andy, hey, in today's climate. And that's why I said, here, you can have this just so you can. No, we're just in the middle of, I'll explain what you got in a second, but, that's why I said, I think doing something right now from the foundation, giving us a little bit of breathing room to figure out what the best plan is for Porter County, instead of actually passing something hastily, because, you know,
There needs to be a lot of research.
there needs to be a lot of research done, a lot of research.
We need to benefit the county as a whole and not just one specific area.
Go ahead, I gotta go get my glasses first.
So. I did think this is good information though, because now, the only one I was looking at was Tippecanoe County, because that was like the closest county to us that they passed a public safety tax. But it's really good to actually see what the towns and municipalities would be getting and the county would be getting, depending on what, you know.
Right now, it's news down in this area with the lit. I'm not quite sure what type of lit it is. I don't know if it's public safety. I don't know if it's just a plain.
What do you want, what's that?
Tippecanoe County. It's up here.
Yeah, right there.
And those two numbers that they have. And we're down. Like we're like 18, 24 here. We're up here.
Oh, okay, so there's Porter and there's Tippecanoe County.
Hey, Red, is this interactive at all? Can we ask questions?
Oh, sure.
You can ask a question.
So I don't know if Chief Dutz, when he put this together, had the study done, was it in part in combination with the thought of how to support the potential for fire territories in order to help absorb the ambulance service challenge that we have going forward, because that would then inherently be covered by those?
Well, I think that's two different topics of conversation, because the county can't tell townships, yeah, you're gonna start fire territory. That has to be on the townships to do it themselves, so, like I said, so I can't tell Liberty and Jackson Township to say, you know, hey, let's start fire territory and tax the residents out there, however the amount might be, $1,000, $500, you can have ambulance out there. I think we gotta take one thing at a time. I know we talked about fire territories, and, you know, that's a big topic, you know, because Jeremy mentioned that at the thing, at the last council meeting, but, you know, fire territories, you know, let's just say Jackson, Liberty Township, while it sounds like a good idea, that's up for the townships that they, you know, they have to get together, they have to vote on it, they have to get their community involved in it. That
I mean, it can help,
She-
I mean, the
Yeah, we can
council
help
can
facilitate,
contact them
absolutely.
and ask them if there's any needs that they have, or anything we
100%.
can help to help
Help
promote it,
facilitate it or help,
but
you know,
ultimately it's their decision.
right, and then that's the thing, whereas if you have Liberty and Jackson say, hey, this is a great idea, because Liberty's a great fire department, you know, I think they do a good job. But then you have other places that if they don't do it, okay, well, we're not gonna supply ambulance,
Is there a sense right now that response time and
no,
quality
no,
of
No,
care
no.
is an issue?
no.
We don't have
We have
it.
not heard anything from response time or quality of care. So,
When it comes to, let's say, just for argument purposes, if a 1/4% public safety tax was passed, and then you look at this chart, what that
Mhm.
means, $6 million for the county. So what do you do with that relative to our obligations for public safety? Is it potential to look at those dollars and say, if we were to utilize some of those dollars to pay for our obligations when it comes to healthcare, for example, benefits for police, and the sheriff's department, could you argue that that money could be used to cover some of our current obligations, which then frees up that money to then support other county obligations?
the only thing that I read in this was, you can use it for pensions.
What kind of dollars are we on the hook for pensions when it comes to our sheriff's
Not
department?
a lot, 150,000. Some, I think last year was 200, this year's 150,000.
But not salary and benefits for the sheriff's department?
Well, it says on page 7, a local income tax may be imposed to fund police, fire protection, emergency medical services, community corrections, public safety, pension payments, or other public safety functions, revenues allocated to the county unit. So police and law enforcement systems, firefighting and fire prevention systems, emergency ambulances and
What is,
emergency relief
what is
services.
systems, Fred?
Again, that's why
The question,
these are all good questions. I just got this today.
if systems meant.
I
So
think-
these are already being covered, like these expenses, haven't they already?
Yeah, but
Pretty-
they're covered from the general fund.
They're being covered
We're
with the
trying-
general fund, right?
So, yeah, so my question was, if a safety tax was passed, could that safety tax dollars be used to cover some of the expenses that the general fund is covering relative to salary and benefits? That, I know it's a bit of a shell game, but that frees up a lot of dollars
So
from
you
the
can't do
general
that.
fund.
It specifically states you cannot reduce the amount that the general fund is paying. This would be in addition to what they're already getting in the general fund. That's the problem.
I see.
That's why we thought it would be to the advantage not to do public safety per se, to do a straight lit tax, because it would affect everybody, including roads.
And then you
Public safety,
utilize it for
And
whatever.
they can utilize it
Exactly.
for the whole county instead of just public safety. But then, again, I don't know about the lit tax. Because quite frankly, I'm afraid we raise the lit tax and the RDA is gonna come calling. They're gonna get their powerful representatives down in the state legislature to pass a law. So,
well, that
by
is
the
a
way,
lit, that's just public safety.
I know, but listen,
But I
I
understand.
get
your
that,
thing.
but I would tell you what, any state legislature that tries and pulls our safety lit, I'd like to see them do it because they're gonna catch up. Right? Now, if it's regular lit, they can probably.
But I
stomach
guess
that,
my
but-
question to you like that. So how do you feel that this is going to help the general fund if we cannot reduce the general fund and this is in addition to the general fund? So what in this would bring the possibility of a positive effect on the general fund?
These are my questions. I
Well,
just, like I said.
here's
just
here's
look
my
at that.
question. So would it be considered reducing the general fund? And this isn't something I'm necessarily advocating for. I'm just trying to figure out what's the reasoning for it. So would it be considered reducing the general fund if you simply didn't spend those general fund dollars on the sheriff's department because the safety tax was replacing that and maybe more? And then you shifted those general fund dollars that had been spent on the sheriff's department for
Going,
other expenses for the county. So you're not reducing the general fund, you're just spending those general fund dollars on other needs.
so like, let's just say we could use this for police raises, we could use it for whatever, E911, whatever, all the raises of public safety.
I'm not ignoring you, I'm looking at.
Yeah, and that's, and so, and just, yeah, Karen, just listen, I'm kind
So
of,
then does that mean you cut their budget a little?
What's that?
That'd be on top of what they already get? So for like raises and whatnot.
I don't know, that's why these are good topics, these are good topics to have, so we
Because
can,
wouldn't that be kind of double dipping?
you know.
Is that,
I don't know, like I said, these are all great questions that need to be vetted, so we understand that, you know, you know, the public safety tax is the way to go, then maybe it does benefit us, maybe just, you know, having a regular lit increase, maybe that benefits us more because we can take care of public safety, we can take care of roads, we can take care of health insurance, we can take care of the whole county instead of just, you know, one segment that, you know, their budget can't drop, it's just added to.
If you advocated for the tax increase of any kind, which you may not have to, or are you saying that we're in such a crunch that you're advocating for some new revenue stream?
I'm not advocating for a tax right now, because I think we have a solution that I put forward that I think if everybody is willing to do it, that buys us some time to figure out what is the best way to go forward.
how much time would you say it's buying us?
It's like this, you can kick the can down the road. But it's a matter of eventually when you kick the can down the road, bill's gonna be due, you know? So, you know, you can play, you know, if you have the money, it's just like a business. Like I always say, I could bid profitable jobs the whole year. And people go, how is that possible? I could pay myself the same salary, I could pay everybody in my office the same salary, because as long as I have money coming in, all you do is, as long as it depends when the date's due. If I have 60 and 90 days where I have to pay people, when you have money coming in, you just rob Peter to pay Paul, rob Peter to pay Paul. Now, at the end of the year, if you had to stop your business, you're gonna have a problem.
You should.
But as long as your business can continue to run, and that's what a lot of people did during 2008, we did jobs for cost to keep our people going, to have money coming in. Once your money stops, you're out of business. But if you can, you know, have the money come in, you can pay this vendor, okay, now, pay this vendor. And that's kind of how county government,
You haven't balanced the
Could.
books, but you've stayed on top of the bills.
yeah, we stay on top of the bills, we have enough money for, you know, I would say our 18-month budget cycle, because it's not just, you know, 12-month, we have to have money for the next 6 months till we get our draw. So there is that buffer, you know, that we have there, but every time we, you know, give 3% raise that costs $1.5 million, that eats back into our buffer. So I think like this year, it was May when I saw we ran a deficit, I believe, Karen, was it May?
We get revenue in June every 6 months. So what happens is we don't get any revenue. We get revenue in December, okay? And it carries us till June till we get more money. We don't have money that comes in like every day. Because a lot of them are dispersed to a lot of the other entities. What happens then is we get June and then December. And December has to take us till our next payout or revenue in June. So we're really working on an 18-month budget. That's the situation.
So every,
And so what happens is at the beginning of the year, we have that maybe 13 million or whatever we're working with, and everybody thinks it's extra money, but it's not, because it has to take us till June. And then by May, we could be in the negative,
right,
waiting for June's
and
payout.
we were in the negative in May, right, as far as our general fund was concerned, but every time we give, say we give a 3% tax or a 3% increase to all the employees, it's gonna cost us $1.5 million. That's ongoing, right? It's not a one time, it's ongoing. Well, that takes us back now to April. Now we might be in the red in April. Say we do another, you know, something that's ongoing, you know, we just keep getting further, you know, I would say backed up. I'm not saying we're in critical red condition, but again, this also isn't a business. If this is a business, you can keep this going, but you have different, you know, I just counted today, we have 68 funds that pertain to public safety, 68 of them.
20 of them are in the sheriff's department.
Yeah, that's 20 of private sheriffs, and you have your 911, you know, so we have 68 funds. Now, each fund, you can do this, you can do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it's not like you have a certain set amount of dollars. You have dollars that are for this funds, and statutorily, this is what you can do with the fund. So that's where the whole hangup is, you know, you might think like people have, you know, 400,000 or 500,000 in their account. Oh, well, let's just grab it and do this. Well, no, you can't. That's their fund. That's, you know, statutorily, we can't do that. I mean,
Well, there are
there's-
some funds that we don't even see.
right.
There are some funds that can be dispersed by the department themselves, and we never even see it. Because it's their fund and they can do what they want with it. So it's not like we can control that or give it to another department. And I think when you look at the full picture, you've got the general fund and what it covers. And then you have the funds that are created by legislation, like accident reports, or you've got the 911 surcharge, and you've got soil and water, and then you've got the recycling. Some of these people have their own funds that never come into the general fund per se. Tourism has their own, you know, the innkeeper's tax and things of that sort. But when you start looking at the big picture, it looks like we have a lot of money, but we don't. Because general fund is minimal compared to everything else out there.
Yeah.
And we have the ones that have revenue that coming in, you know, to cover their own, like 911 surcharge. That stuff is covered by the 911 surcharge, but they're also getting money out of lit and they're getting money out of CCD. And the lit and CCD, the current lit and the current CCD, if we could move, like, because they don't pay their own insurance, which if we could move that over to 911, then that would free up some money for other things. And that's what we're looking to try to do in the overall picture.
That was part of my question relative to what kinds of dollars of public safety tax would free up from our current expenses from the general fund to allow you to then address ongoing or additional expenses that come in.
Well, I was looking up the code and I haven't found it yet, but it specifically says in the code that if you have a public safety tax, you cannot reduce the amount of money that they receive from the general fund.
Oh, that they receive.
You can't reduce that. They get that in addition to a public safety. And that's where the crux is, whether we do a public safety or we do a straight lit, which would affect the whole county. But it's still a tax. And we're just trying to look at options to, right now, we're looking at budgets. We had about 7 budgets turned in this week. We had tourism, we had planning, we had juvenile detention, juvenile probation, 911, and we had a couple other ones. They are being creative. And they are trying to use their other funds. And juvenile detention and juvenile probation are trying to work with the courts in trying to move it from one to the other. Because juvenile probation, juvenile detention, and adult probation, public defenders all fall within the court's realm. So when that comes before us, this falls under the courts, and that would be the 6 courts that we have: circuit court, general courts, and then you've got the other courts, okay, which are 3. 2 of them in number 3 and 6 in Portage, and the rest of them over here in Valparaiso. So you have to look at that, and then you've got the grants they get and other options, but the judges get paid $5,000 from the county fund. The rest of the money comes from state. So those are things that are pretty intricate when you start looking at the budgets. It's not cut and dry. You can't look at one budget and say, oh, it's just general fund. It's not, because there are some that have 3 or 4 different areas that their money's coming from that they can work with, and they can move things from here to there. Like I myself, I have 2 other funds. I have the general fund, and then I have the GIS fund because we maintain all the GIS maps and we have to copy and maintain them. And then we have what's called the homestead fund. And the homestead fund, they're both GIS and the homestead are non-reverting funds, which mean I really don't have to go to council for it, but we do it as just to work with them. Okay. So the homestead is where, let's say you have a place in Valparaiso, but you also have a place in Florida. We now have software that was purchased this year that will find out that you have more than one homestead and you don't qualify for it. So you have to find out where their taxes are being, filed, where their plates are being, where their driver's license is at, and also their voting record. So let us say that they have a homestead in Indiana, but they have all this other information in Florida. So what happens then is we can go back on 3 years and collect it, contact Florida and make sure they have one there. And so we get money for that, but in the office, we get 250,000. The rest of it goes to the general fund. Do you know what I'm saying? We're limited as to what funds we can have. There are other departments like the recorder's office. They have regular fund, and then they have the recorder's perpetuation fund. Every time a document is being filed, you're going to receive dollars that go to different areas, like the clerk has a records perpetuation fund, and the recorders do. And that money can be used for anything to maintain the records. Like if you have a records department, you could actually pay for your personnel out of that, which works out well. But they're limited because when they have those funds, you're looking at, it's not really easy for them to get additional funds because people are saying, take it out of this other fund, because we're tight right now. So it's not cut and dry like that. It's like, it's so many different funds that you're working with it.
And how many different funds do we have, all what we work with? Like 100, like 130 or something.
130, 160, I don't,
Well, whatever, because I have actually a list of which statute goes with which fund, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna pick the ones.
yeah, I have it in my book too, but I didn't bring
But
it
yeah,
today.
it's, so, yeah, there's a lot going on here. And that's why with the lit, I've always been worried about that is, legislation with the RDA saying now you have to share some with the RDA, and I will never do that. I will never vote for any type of lit tax if I have to share with the RDA.
Hey, Red, how do these special budget meetings typically work? I assume that there would be at least a quorum of the council here. I figured you guys would be advancing the conversation as to how to meet our challenges. So how does it normally work with two council members here? I'm not sure how the, how the special budget meeting then really advances much if you only have two council members here.
You can't make the council members show up.
Yeah, they're like,
For what?
you can't, if I don't want to, if I don't want to come the whole year, I don't have to.
These are things that haven't been happening in the past. This year, we thought it might implement some of the discussion between the departments and the council and try to get a better hold on what's going on instead of having your budgets thrown at you during budget week or whatever. And that's why we, in the auditor's office, have been talking to department heads and telling them, we've been told no additional personnel, no increases. Okay, if you have another fund, let's see if you can transfer from that. If you're not using that or you have unexpended funds, can you move that somewhere else? Can you reduce your full-time staff and use hourly? So we're looking at options, like with the animal shelter. It was a suggestion that they have one of the lowest adoption rates for Indiana. So I said, you know how you can change this? You go to the commissioners, you ask for an ordinance to increase your adoption rate. And so they did get an ordinance, and so they've been getting additional $30 per adoption. When you start looking at the cost of how much it is to feed that for the bedding and everything else, while they're keeping those dogs there to be adopted, it's pretty expensive after a while. Now, don't get me wrong, the department of the animal shelter does have a donation, and last year they got about $850,000 from a donor. And they do have that, but the point is they don't want to lose all their money at one time. So they're looking at other ways to bring in revenue.
How does
Because-
the county increase adoption? Isn't it just a
It's
matter
an ordinance.
I think she gave the fees. The fees.
Oh, it's not an adoption for litter, and it's the adoption rate for the fees.
Yeah. And so to answer your question, you're an elected official. You don't have to come to these, but we've had good attendance. Mike Brickner's came, Andy Bozak's came. Andy, you've been here, since I started it, I feel obligated.
There's only one that I-
Even though I'd like to miss a couple, but you know what I'm saying, but.
What this does is with Karen's knowledge to us as council members, and especially Red and I, first time around for this term for him and I, it helps us understand what's happening in regards to what line item pays for what and so on. Because there's a lot of stuff that I'll come and go, hey, can we do this? And when she's done laughing, she'll tell me no. But, it's an educational thing. Do we have to attend? No. Should we attend? Yes, primarily because it's everybody who's here who's a citizen, it's your money, right? Including me. And being an old retired guy, I'm living on a fixed income, yes? So I want to know where my money goes. Sylvia often says that she's retired and living on a fixed income. So we should know where our money is coming from, where it's going to, and what can we do to make it stretch? Do we need to add a little bit more water to the stew? Sometimes, yeah.
And I
that's what
think
this
these
is for.
meetings have been good because
Yes,
I don't think we've never had meetings like this before.
no,
So we would just get right to budget, do a shell game. Oh, okay, that's, I don't mean that, no
We
disrespect.
did it in the night.
It'd be a shell game. Okay, we're good for this year. But wait a minute. What about next year? What about the year after? What are we looking like 5 years out? You know, what costs are we gonna have 5 years out? What about IT? We're gonna have big IT bills in the next 2 to 3 years. Well, we'll worry about that when the time comes.
and that's what's been shooting us in the foot.
Yeah.
Here's a good example of that. We just recently, we've been trying to get the Willow Creek project since 1987. But it's always been because NERC's made up of 56 commissioners from 3 counties. Commissioners are people who are appointed by the county council, which I'm on the NERC board, the mayor of each city and so on. And so there's 56 of us, and you need a quorum. And too many times when you get there, there's not. So what do? Nothing. They'll talk about what they can do the next quarter and so on. That's where since 1987, when this idea was brought up, nobody has done really squat diddly. Then NERC said, we need 80-cent increase this year. Okay. And everybody knew on the council that if the state wanted to, they could shove it down our throat, so. They needed 3 counties, all 3 counties to sign on it and to pass this idea, right? And House Lake wrote a bill and everybody was not happy with, correct? Right? In the way 80 cents.
I wasn't happy.
Yeah, so I went home and I figured out a way to do this. I presented to all the council members, because I'm one of 7, okay? There's 7 of us. And we got 4 people to say, okay, bipartisan, 2 Dems, 2 Republicans who say, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And we did it, and we passed it. What we did in turn was take 15 cents for the next 5 years, or 16 cents for the next 5 years. And if the NERC wanted another increase, they'd have to see the 3 counties and get it again, as opposed to getting hit all at once, okay? Now, why did that happen? Because for 27 years, nobody looked at it. They kicked the can down the road. Because nobody wanted to do a tax, because elections. Do you want to be known as a councilman who enacted a tax? If you want to get reelected? Probably not, or state senator, or whatever the case may be. So people kicked it down the road. That's the unfortunate side. Doing this, okay, we have to answer the hard questions. Sometimes it's not.
But
always fun.
I will make the argument that the public's not stupid. If the public has the information, if the public understands.
Right,
it, if
and we
you're
have public.
transparent with the public, if you give the information, most people will say, hey, we want to have good roads, good, ambulance, we want to have sheriff, especially ambulance, right?
Right.
I mean, so, but you have to lay the information out. You just can't have, 1 or 2 meetings and, shove it down the public's throat, especially in today's day and age. I mean, everyone's struggling. You can't ask for a tax increase. So.
And as it is, and I appreciate you saying that.
So, that's why, like I said, I offered a couple different solutions at the last meeting. We're gonna bring them up, we're gonna vote on them, we're gonna see who thinks it's a good idea or a bad idea, as simple as that. And if it doesn't get passed, it doesn't get passed, we kick the road down and, kick it down the road, and that's all you can do.
Question.
At the end of the day,
So, sitting on the park board, one of the,
and I voted against your park person, it wasn't like I told you,
I get you.
I love the park board, but we just sent out a memo, hey,
I understand.
stop,
I
and
understood.
it
why.
is what it is, yeah, I mean, I
We're in
can't,
crunch, I get it. Yeah.
I can't do for you and then not do for everybody else that comes down the pike.
Right, but relative to the park board, one of the things that we invest our time in is creating a 5-year master plan. Where we are relative to our infrastructure, where do we want to be in 5 years? What are those steps that we need to take to get there? What's it going to cost to get there? Have we, as a board, as a council, or a board for the county, has there been any effort to create that long-term strategic comprehensive master plan of this is where we are? This is where we want to be. This is what it's going to take to get there. And then you start getting into the real details, the nuts and bolts of what would have to happen to achieve that.
Well, that's why we're meeting here today. That's why we started these meetings, so we could all have, I think, hopefully informed conversations about different I didn't know what I was gonna talk about today until I got this email. Well, we're gonna talk about the public safety tax. People cringe. Oh my God, you're gonna bring up a public safety tax where you might not get elected. Okay, well, someone has to bring it up, because it's out there. And if they bring it up to me, I'm bringing it up to my council people and to the public. This is what's being talked about out there. So let's talk it out. Let's vet it. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Maybe maybe we use, 0.25% here and, do another, tax increase in a couple of years of 0.25. But I just, if someone brings something to me, we're gonna vet it and have a long-term plan of what do we have coming down the pike? And that's what we've started doing this year is what do we have coming down the pike? Lee from IT, 5-year plan, health insurance, 5-year plan. We're trying to get these plans where what revenue are we gonna need in the next 5 years?
The
So,
other thing is, though, you have to take into consideration that you have 2 bodies that you have to deal with, your executive body and your financial body. They both have to agree on it. And if the executive body doesn't have a plan or that plan isn't in there, it doesn't matter how many times
Yeah.
the financial body addresses it, because this is the same thing that's been going on since the 90s.
By executive.
This is the same thing in the 90s, the same thing. We need a 5-year plan. We needed a 5-year plan. And the only reason I say that, I was on the council for 8 years. I was the clerk for 8 years. And I've gone through it as working as a council, being on the planning commission, being with the Memorial Opera House and some of those other issues. And we always say we need a 5-year plan, but to get a 5-year plan, you have to have a majority. 3 people's not going to do it. You have to have a consensus of the financial board and a plan with the executive board to have a 5-year plan.
What,
Sorry.
why do you need,
Thanks for that.
why couldn't you just ask the department heads to say, hey, we want a 5-year plan? Whether it's not involved with either one, tell us what your department's gonna need in 5 years. You're not
So
voting.
you want the
approving a
real,
plan.
you want the, how this, you want the real how this works? We get 5-year plans. I got a 5-year plan last year from Lee. You know what we did with it? We put it on a shelf.
No funding.
We can't afford a 5-year plan. I looked at it, hey, Bob, dude, great 5-year plan, brother, thanks. Unless Sunset Hill Park is gonna that's why I've been telling Jake from day one, focus on Sunset Hill. Get those touch-a trucks, get the, you know, as much revenue as you can out of Sunset Hill. So then if you wanna grow your parks, grow your parks. I mean, I know you guys are talking about possibly a park impact fee, you know? Those are the type of things that your board's gonna have to decide to try and, you know, make the money, because right now, I just look and I say, hey, this looks good. Maybe if we can, you know, clip a couple things off, we'll try to, just like, you know, the technician. But short of that, still need 1.5 million for raises this year.
That 5-year plans are great, but when you're funding, let us say our budget right now, for the next year, we're gonna have 1.2 million. Everybody's priority is public safety, you know that. Well, the sheriff has already probably requested more than 1.2 million. And we have to work within that because they have to decide. I mean, I give them the numbers, but the council decides, it's their decision, which is the biggest priority, because you don't have just them. You've got 911. You've also got, and when you talk about the sheriff, you're talking about the jail. And you're talking about other concerns. And right now, when you talk about individuals that are falling under the public safety, coroner is now that,
EMS,
EMA.
E911.
So you've got, it's not just one department. And some of them bring in their own revenue, but the coroner does not. You can't charge to pick somebody up. EMA does not, and most of their donations come from the hospital. If they get assets such as equipment, things of that sort, it usually comes from the hospital. But there's only one there that really can cover their own out of all those, and that would be 911. The sheriff can't cover his. It doesn't matter how much we charge the federal, we're only limited to, like, I think it was $89 a prisoner. Now, you know, it's gonna cost a little bit more than that. I mean, we spend that on a regular basis.
And that's why every time the county government grows, it gets more expensive to try and fund it. And you can't fund it. That's why you have to hold the line on personnel and people, and because it's, you know, we have how many employees we have?
867.
867 employees for the county. So, you know, it's expensive to run a county.
What's the average annual growth in county to be able to afford to the general fund and the expenses that associate with that?
We only get 3% over last year,
3%.
this year.
Where are we right now? What would 3%? Where are we relative? 3%.
With reference to, well, we just get our, from our revenue. Are you talking about the general fund?
Yeah, so the county council, how many more additional dollars do they have to work with on it?
1.2, like I said, 1.2 million.
1.2.
And the
annually.
sheriff pretty much has a plan for that. That's not saying he'll be able to, but for right now,
Yeah, everybody has their plan.
everybody
just like
has their plan.
Everybody has their
But by
budgets
just
and
putting
has
it
their plans,
into
so.
an idea.
Yeah.
1.2 million is probably what, if you're looking at public safety coverage, it's going to go to those departments that cover public safety. And then you still have the other departments that still have to promote. I mean, you've got your assessors.
When you say cover public safety, are you talking about the investments that they say they need to continue to provide quality public safety, or are you talking pay raises, increases,
They're talking additional personnel pay raises and other items.
benefits and all?
I mean, the budgets will be online. You'll be able to see them. They're all supposed to be to us by July 1st, but depending on with the holiday on the 4th and things of that sort. And you can access that. We're going to be putting that online. So, but until we get them all together, make sure they're all in. And then there's still times after that that people will change their budget right before they see the council. So most of them, I will have to admit, are trying to work within the constraints that the council has given them. And we're just making sure that we can find ways to accomplish or to keep what they currently have. Like we just met with tourism today. And tourism is taking and removing one of their people and moving it to an hourly. So that they don't have to pay benefits, because the benefits in course are holidays, vacations, you know, medical expenses, things of that sort. So that does reduce the cost and does help the total general fund. But these are just ideas that the
Then-
councils come up.
Yeah, but then, these are other things that, makes it tough because LaPorte has a public safety tax, Lake County has a public safety tax. Now you're talking about trying to get officers to work here. I understand if, I don't know what LaPorte's paying, say their sheriff's department, but if they're getting paid 65 or 70, we're getting paid 60 or 65. Well, I'm gonna go to LaPorte. If Lake County's getting paid 80,000, whatever, I don't know what these numbers are, but if they have that tax to be able to support their officers and their pay, it puts us in a difficult position to hire and retain.
A lot of department heads will tell you that we're training for the counties.
Doolin didn't get all these teachers because we're the lowest paid. Doolin got these teachers because we made a commitment to say we want to be one of the top paid school systems, in our district.
Yeah,
That's why everybody wants to come here.
was part of that, that.
Yeah,
We've worked
so-
hard with you to do that. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta attract and
You
retain
gotta
quality
attract and
people.
retain.
And if you can't pay them a competitive wage, then.
My only problem has been retract and retain, but if they're not cutting it, they gotta go.
Yeah.
Right?
Gotta do your
I mean, gotta do your job. That's all I ask, do your job. If you're not doing your job, gotta go.
So we have about a $48 million budget,
48 now.
48 million.
That's what we got on the horizon, but this is probably gonna be coming down the pike here in the next, I don't know, couple months, I would imagine. I don't know how hard, they're gonna be pushing this. During an election year, it's gonna be pretty hard to get this done by October. I mean, heck, even if it wasn't an election year, it's hard to get this done by October, because I would tell them I need more, we need to see how this is gonna benefit Porter County, the who, what, where, when, and why. Kind of hard to get it done in a couple months.
Well, and on top of that, you've got to figure if we don't, you're probably not going to reap any benefits till 2025 or 2026, depending on when.
Exactly. No, I know that too. So that's why I said these are absolutely, and I'm so glad that, Chad, I got a copy of this from Chad, because this really helps me out to start the conversation and understand understand it. Because I was looking, like I said, Tippecanoe County, they have 170,000 people, kind of like us, and I was kind of looking, they have a really good presentation online that I found, and I'm like, well, they have the same amount of people. Let's see, kind of how they're doing things. So,
Just for your, in case you guys want to look it up, Indiana code for a lit, public safety lit or a lit is 6-3.6-2-14.
Karen, could you do that again?
6-3.6-2-14. And it'll tell you everything you need to know about adopting it, about putting it into place, what needs to be done prior to, and deadlines.
And that is
And that-
Indiana code relative.
Yeah, I see.
Any lit tax or safety?
It's lit tax.
Which safety tax would be considered?
Public safety is part of it.
So then your thought is you take the conversations you have here back to the monthly county council meetings as a whole to have a wider conversation about the types of,
that's always our goal.
that's the goal, okay.
It's always our goal. It's always my goal. I would imagine if I get somebody trying to bring it up and talk about it, but
Yeah,
Like
like
I
Andy,
said.
for example, at the end of the meeting, tonight, I'm sorry, Jeremy, at the end of the meeting, I think referenced the last budget meeting, he was unimplementing, middle of the day, he's got a job. Just wondering what the conversations were about, what options you guys were talking about.
Well, and that's one of the reasons we recorded, so that we can hear everything that's going
and we give them all the
on. Documentation.
documentation so everybody's aware, so someone can't say, oh, you're not giving us proper documentation, or whatever, trying to play politics. Everyone's getting the same thing at this meeting, so. Everyone has the same opportunities to, they're at their work, they can listen, or, they can get it recorded, they can listen, so.
Does the council ever call executive sessions? I know there are constraints to executive.
The only the only executive session I've had was tourism, and that didn't work out too well. Yeah. So, that's the only one I've ever been involved in. So this is fun, guys. Can't wait to get elected. These are tough decisions. That's why I set up, you know, it's in like I always tell people, whoever, Republican or Democrat, well, you know, honesty, this and that, blah, 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 integrity. Well, you know what? You have to make tough decisions, you know, because you're not gonna please everybody. And that's just how life is, you know?
Make good decisions when they're not easy to make.
Or you can do what they've been doing for a long time and not make any, which is why we're where we're at. You know,
And I will say though, I was shocked when I got on the council. They are very fiscally responsible. I'll give them that. There's no question. I mean, I will never say they're not. I mean, you can say, you know, some money here, some money there. I get that. We can argue about that all day. But for the most part, I will tell you, they are 100% this county's fiscally responsible. There's no ifs, no ands, and no buts.
We wouldn't be where we're at today if they weren't,
Exactly.
because we have accomplished a lot as a county.
Right.
We have a lot of benefits and we have a lot of areas that we create for the individual taxpayers that they reach.
No doubt. Yep. I would definitely agree with that. Um,
I'm allergic to money.
Oh, I thought maybe it was me again.
No,
Karen, is the county limited to a 3% growth in
Yes.
revenue? That state statute?
And then that gets into the foundation money, you know, the who, the what, the where, the when, the foundation money, you know, the $185 million we have. And, you know, if we raise taxes, people say, well, hey, you know, you have 185 million, maybe by the end of this year, we have 200 million. You know, you're gonna raise my tax and you have $200 million from the bank, kind of a tough conversation to have with somebody. So that's, like I said, that's why I came up with two plans to lessen the burden on the taxpayer. You know, using some of that money or using some of that percentage to lessen the burden on the taxpayer and give us a little bit of breathing room so we can actually put together a good plan, hopefully, God willing, and, you know, present it to the people and see what, you know, see what the thoughts are. So I can,
Would you guess that the public would be interested in utilizing the foundation money since it was the sale of the hospital, using that focused on?
I can tell you,
Mental and
just,
physical health
just from
needs.
the people that I talk to, they would rather have you utilize that foundation money, come up with a 3 or 4 or 5 year plan, so you don't raise taxes on it right now, because everybody's struggling. These people I talk to, is probably the majority of the county. So,
It all depends on which route you go, because if you touch the principal, you're going to have 10 votes, which means the executive body and the fiscal body. And so you'll probably never get 10 votes to do that. He's been looking at other options of how to maybe address it and talking about changing the smoothing process to increase it that to a point where it's just going to 5%, 5% from 3.
3 1/4.
And so that might be an option too. So he has been doing a lot of work, you know, researching.
When you refer to the principal, are you talking about the original principal?
Now, the
of sale of
principal per
hospital?
state statute, just so everybody knows, is to the extent that the investment income earned on the principal of the amount of the donation during a calendar year exceeds 5% of the amount of the principal at the beginning of the calendar year, that excess investment income shall, for purposes of this section, be added to and be considered a part of the principal amount of the donation. So technically, anything you earn over 5% in that calendar year is considered principal. So that's why we can only go up to 5%. So
5% of what you earned or 5% of the balance?
5% of, well, what we do now is a smoothing method. So we can understand, so we have a baseline that we can draw from. So I think we take the last 20 quarters, we average it out. I think right now I figured out our smoothing is within about $173 million. That's our $173,500,000 is our 5-year smoothing average, which, so the Porter County, achieved a 14.3% return for 2023, and it ended with a market value of 181. At our last meeting, we're at $185 million. The foundation's spending policy is 3.25% of a 5-year rolling average market value, resulting in an available distribution of $5.6 million. So if we bumped it up to 5%, I calculated that the smoothing value is approximately $173,500,000. We would get approximately $8,675,000 if we bump that up.
So we're not taking 3.25% of the balance, we're taking 3.25% of the 5-year rolling average.
Yes,
That's the smoothing aspect of that.
yes, and then that would give us an extra $3 million a year.
You get 5.6 now.
Yeah, we have 5.6 now, and that goes for. So
But that's a considerably larger chunk of the draw on that as well annually.
Yep. yes,
Well,
it
some of
is.
it goes to 911, some of it goes right.
Some of it goes to the sheriff, 911, Opportunity Enterprise. I think we get $500,000 a year out of that. And something else, I think there's a couple things out of that line item that's what the 5.6 supports.
Right.
So right now, 3.25% of the 5-year rolling average is about $5.6 million.
Yes.
And you said your proposal to consider increasing that to the maximum of 5, because anything over 5 would be considered principal.
Correct.
So going to 5%, that proposal would increase that.
Approximately 8.6, give or take.
So another $3 million.
I was doing napkin.
A napkin?
I was on a napkin at my work, just when I was doing something, trying to figure out what the smoothing, how much the smoothing was. So I knew 5.6, I knew we had 181, so I went, okay, well, what's the smoothing? So I kind of backed in about 173 million should be our smoothing 5-year rolling average right now. So it'd be $8.6 million. We could take that extra $3 million a year, and we wouldn't have to worry about ambulance service. We wouldn't have to worry about Lee's IT bills coming up for the next couple of years, and we could actually throw money into paving, which, you know, like I said, benefits the county, Lee benefits the county, ambulance benefits the county.
I think health insurance is one of them that comes with.
A little bit, I think
Foundation.
a partial bit of health
Not all of it,
insurance,
yeah.
not all of it. So, and as you can see, when we first, you know, there's people gonna be like, oh God, well, you know, we should be doing this or that with it. Well, this was set up before any of us got on the council, and it is what it is. We started the foundation, and, you know, we put line items in that foundation, and that honestly there is a reason why our tax rate is so low, is because instead of raising taxes, we use 3.25% to fund some line items that if we didn't have that, someone would have had to raise taxes. So this is, we can do something like this to give us, you know, have a 3-year plan. So hopefully we can start talking about revenue or, you know, like I said, maybe a couple data centers come and, you know, we get some revenue that way and we get lucky and, you know, we won't have to raise taxes because that is the last thing that I want to do to somebody, especially in this
Rugged economy.
in
we
this
got.
rugged economy, horrible economy is, you know, raising taxes. So.
I know the job of the council is to make ends meet. I think you would have a larger contingent than you think of the community who would be upset if we spent substantial dollars from the foundation and it wasn't on public health needs relative to the original.
Let me just tell you something about public health needs, okay?
Red, that's not an attack.
No, that's what I'm telling you where I come from.
Conversation.
When you get in government, you'll understand how this works, okay? Public health needs. What do we get from the state legislature? Got a bunch of money, right, for our health department, right?
I'm not sure what dollars.
We did, I don't know how much did we get? This, and then we're gonna get more this year. Yeah, we're gonna get a lot of money, right? So,
Is that like additional money? Like
yeah, additional money on top of.
Oh, I remember, yeah, the
Yeah,
legislation.
so this is why I get frustrated, because you have the state legislature saying, hey, look, for votes, this is gonna look really good, let's give all the health departments all this money, really, not really a lot of oversight, some oversight. So, you know, we hire additional people, hire 3 more additional people. We give our, you know, director, the director was gonna retire, we give that position a raise.
The health department.
The health
3
department,
people.
we have a health department director who's making $50,000, correct?
It was, you're talking about the doctor, that was where,
Yeah.
it was 48,000.
48,000, but regardless, so that position got bumped up to 150,000, okay?
No, with the pretense that she was gonna retire.
Right, but regardless of, like I said, I like her, I have no problem.
No, I'm
It's-
not
it's-
saying it, but
Yeah, no,
that's how
it's the
it's presented.
position that bothers me. So,
Well, it was
We-
wildly underfunded. I hate for the position.
what, $150,000? There's not many people in this county make $150,000 for a part-time position.
what's that salary relative to like a?
But this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going with this, Bob. Everyone wants to talk about, oh, mental health, public safety, blah, 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 blah. You're adding to overhead, it's not getting to the people. You wanna go and do a renovation that costs $2 million, right? You wanna add 3 positions, you wanna raise the pay of the doctor, and I'm not saying it's not warranted. But to go from 48 to 150,000?
Yep.
That's insane to me. So this is how government, this is where I get frustrated because I say, oh, we have money. When we get money, we get people, we do this, we raise money. And then I'm stuck going, okay, well, Bob wants a technician who I know you need. I can't give you one. Because the state doesn't think parks are important enough, you know? And I understand public, you know, like I'm a big public health advocate. But I think we need to use these dollars just going forward in a better way, you know? Not adding overhead. It needs to get down to the people of providing services, maybe free vaccinations.
Sure, yeah.
Because we still charge for vaccinations, so why not give the people free vaccinations when they come in here?
Yeah, my underlying point was that there will be legitimate concerns relative to how we would propose to use substantial amounts of that dollars.
And I will tell you this right now, Bob. Anybody that wants to come to this council meeting and tell me they want to raise taxes, that's fine. If they say, I would rather raise my taxes than do a 3-year plan for this money, we're not taking from the principal, okay, we're taking, you know, just upping our interest of what we're taking out of it. I get it, but then they're gonna have to tell me, well, then where are we gonna get revenue for the next couple of years? Because I know one thing, if we don't get revenue, county employees aren't getting raises. So you can tell the county employees, well, you're not gonna get a raise. Why? Because you're worried about having $200 million in a foundation? See where I'm going with this?
Oh, I hear you. Yeah, no doubt about it.
I know one thing, before I raise taxes on people, I'll be using some of that money for the foundation until we can figure out a better plan on where we can get revenue from, whether it's lit, whether it's public safety tax, whether it's a wheel tax, whatever we have to do, but we have to have a solid plan before we can say, hey, we're just gonna raise taxes.
My point is for broader support to consider what are those public safety, I should say, public health needs relative to the origin of this money and how we might want to address those and to potentially fold those into the conversation. So you're addressing multiple things.
So what I would say, what I will say to anybody that wants to do public health needs, you know, I'm gonna direct them to, go right to the health department. They just got $1 million. They're gonna be getting another big chunk this year. They have the money, go talk to them. Because they got the money. Everybody in the county, they got the money is the health department. So if people have public health safety needs, talk to the health department. They got the money. And get on their board, you know, shape some policy, you know, do that. But, you know, as of right now, I don't think there's too much, well, and I will tell you, in my plan, taking off some of this, I think that one of the major, items is ambulance services. That's not the biggest health need in the county. What is, right? I mean, if we can't provide ambulance service to the county, then, you know, that's a pretty important need. Well, in this plan, it's paid for. So we're kind of, and like I told Sylvia, because, you know, she said, we're in charge now, right? The Republicans, fine, that's how we're gonna do it. We're in charge. I will listen to anybody here that has a good plan. If you say, hey, you know what, how about doing this instead of this? Hey, if it makes sense, boom, let's look at it. So this was the things that I thought of. I thought of, let's pay for ambulance service. Why? Because ambulance service is pretty damn important. Okay, my mom and dad used it both twice, and it was excellent service. I just talked to a lady who's my neighbor at my place. Her mom fell, broke her hip, shattered her shoulder, and I asked her, I said, hey, how was the ambulance? Excellent. The people that came, they were excellent. They were there within 3 minutes. They helped her, you know, got her to Franciscan, did a great job. So in my opinion, having great ambulance service is a pretty big need in the county. So I kind of figured we have a little bit for, you know, for the public health, we have money for the roads, and we have money for IT, because IT is a big expense. If this place goes down, nobody gets paid, the county shuts down, and then we're kind of at a standstill there.
At the council meeting, you were referring to a matching grant. What is that for the roads?
Was a CCMG grant.
And can I didn't know what that stood for.
Community crossings.
Community Crossings grant. So
Community
that's the grant that the state gives us when they raise our gas. Tell me if I'm wrong, Karen, I don't know, but that's how I get it. They raise your gas taxes, it goes all down to Indy, and then they cut you back a grant of $1.5 million that you have to match. So Valpo with, let's just say 300 miles of roads gets the same CCMG grant that Porter County gets. We have 900 miles of roads. So.
So is it a rolling scale? So they'll match it up to certain points. So we don't currently earn the $1.5 million match.
We have to find it. No, we get the $1.5 million. We have to come up with the 1.5 million to
Don't
match.
give us 1.5, we have. to
We have
come
to
up
come
with
up
So
with
we don't currently do that.
No, we currently match.
We have-
We route
been
you
doing it for
pay Paul
years.
and we find different
Problems.
line items to match the grant.
Okay, so that wouldn't be a new grant in addition to what we currently have for road funding. That would just be sustaining. what
It's
we
the same
currently
This
have.
is sustaining what we currently have because every
Your
year
proposal would just be a way to
sustain the grant that we always have a problem with. Oh, and we had to borrow out of the bridge fund one year, I think, to even match the grant.
So wouldn't, relative to that whole shell game, public safety, covering potentially some of our current costs with the sheriff's department. In this regard, if you're proposing that you utilize some of this additional revenue, which would be $3 million by increasing from 3.25 to 5% from the foundation, that could be any shell game you wanted to.
Because
Because
you can use that money for whatever the county would like, and that's why I told Sylvia, if you have a solution, bring it to me.
So I get it. So just very specifically though, you say we already earned the $1.5 million, but that's 1.5 that we're spending out of the general fund. But you're proposing that if we use 1.5 from that 3 million, that would then free up the other 1.5. that you're
Yes, out of the general fund, yeah, that we always have a problem finding, yeah.
I'm just trying to
Which gives us,
reason it all out.
which gives us some breathing room, so we're not kicking stuff down the road. Like Lee gives us his 5-year plan and, we need to come up with some substantial money over the next couple of years.
What's the annual cost of police plan to modernize our?
The next couple, 3, 4, 5 years, $2 million, wasn't it? Yeah.
A year or altogether?
Altogether, and that's why I proposed out of this, let's break out $500,000 a year for, 3, 4 years, get Lee taken care of, so he can, get all the old, all the old equipment, make sure that the county's, functioning, because right now, everything's on computers, everything, I mean, your computer goes down, people stop now. I mean, back in the
We
day,
actually had the computers go down in Portage because the equipment we have over there is so archaic. They couldn't find the part to fix it. So for 2 weeks, the judges could not function.
yeah,
Well,
you can
not
imagine
just
if that
function, but
happened
you
here.
have to be.
You gotta be up
From,
viruses and everything else, I mean,
that's
it's
just out to get you.
100%. So there's a big problem there with IT. There's, big problem with road funding, big problem with, you name it, healthcare comes down the pipe. There's a lot of things and every person that we add on the payroll, and like I always tell people, I appreciate you're splitting half the money. But it's also another 22,000 that either commissioners have to pick up or the council has to pick up for every employee. So it's, every time we add people, there's another 22,000.
We've got
plus-
health insurance.
Plus
PERS,
health per
FICA.
FICA and all that, so what are we looking at, like 30 grand by the time you're done, 32 grand?
22,000 just for the.
Just for the health insurance, so every time we add somebody, there's a cost that we absorb, and you keep doing that over the years, and now you say, okay, we have 800, whatever, 61 employees, and gets to be some big numbers.
Folks. Well, I got a scoop, but I'm glad I came because I appreciate the information. Really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Andy. Good to see you guys.
Thanks for coming.
Is there anything else we're gonna be talking about?
We need to touch base on the individuals that brought their budgets and,
Not big one.
well, we have some positives. First of all, we'll start with tourism. They have taken one of their individuals, the vice president, and removed that, and then had divided some of that money up. They're talking about a 5% raise across the board. I mentioned to them that probably, not quite sure how that was gonna go. They also have opened their gift shop. They moved $175,000 out of their shop supplies. And so they're probably less than they were last year. 911 wants a $5,000 raise for each of their employees. She did reduce the 28 employees to 22 employees. My concern is the $5,000 raise, because they were just brought to that midpoint. But the other thing that I'm thinking, if you could drop 6 employees, and maybe you need to pick up your health insurance and some of those other costs.
Right.
We just got it in the mail, so we haven't touched base with her on that,
I think that's, if you can drop the employees, give them a raise, I have no problem
but
with
they
that.
need to cover some of those other costs that we're
Costs,
taking out of.
Yep, I got you.
The other one was we met with Health Department. Health Department is going to a program where they are going to offer free vaccinations. They're also going to be able to, they're also going to be able to, individuals that cannot afford their doctor's appointments or special needs that they have,
There we go.
covering that. That's what's in this year's budget. They're also looking at, they do need another,
And the reason why I mentioned the shots was because I knew a young lady who has 2 kids, and I'm like, "Well, take them to the health department." You know, she's like, "No, man," she goes, "It's like $200 to go to the health department." I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. They get all this money for buying bicycles and backpacks, but now I have a young girl who's
I'm not
saying,
saying which vaccines they're offering. I'm just knowing.
I'm just, what I would like to see is the money flowing down to the people.
Right.
Like the people that's struggling, the girl whose husband's actually working, and she's trying to take care of her kids, that, you know, you should be able to come to the health department and get free shots.
Well,
That's
we're
just my
supposed to be
opinion.
working with the community, so.
Yeah, so
And helping
that's
them out.
the way I look at it.
Does that include, are they expanding that new lift program? Where
Yeah,
they were picking up people to go to their doctors or something?
that's what they're talking about, needing.
And that right there is another great program, I think. You know, look at, with all the older folks we have here, and, you know, when I was in Michigan, we had dial ride. You know, an older folk could call, they'd go down and they'd pick them up, they'd take them to their doctor's appointment. That means a great service for people, especially in Porter County. You know, you get somebody that they're, you know, relying on their kid or something to take them, the kid don't take them, and then they gotta wait, they miss their doctor's appointment. I mean, I think that to me is one of the best programs we could have in this.
I think they are moving in the right direction. I think they're gonna be covering some positive things that you'll be impressed with.
Well, I sure hope so.
The other ones that we had the planning commission and, that department with Mike Jabo. And, that's where it was brought up that we needed to come up with the 1.5 million and whether we were gonna pay them back, you know, from the previous.
I look at it this way, and I told Mike this, quite frankly. Per state statute, if we don't have to pay it back, I will pay it back. So
Well,
unless I'm forced to pay it back, I'm not paying it back, Mike, sorry, but I guess that's not being a good neighbor next time we need money, right? But,
That's right.
I mean, I don't know, what do you want me to
Call
do?
State Farm if he wants a good neighbor.
Right, I don't, if you want a good neighbor, call State Farm, but I told Jay, well, Mike, hey, honestly,
Give up.
if we don't have to pay it back, then, you know, because it's all the money, it's all, and, you know, sorry, it is what it is. 1 year we had to rob Peter to pay Paul, and
Juvenile detention, juvenile probation came in. Of course, you know that with juvenile probation, we're mandated by Indiana law to give them a specific raise increase.
correct.
And then they're looking at the 3% on top of that. They were moving some monies around. It was looking pretty good. I haven't looked at the final. They sent them just right before I got here. I'm trying to think what other departments we met. Now, I met with the sheriff's department. Yesterday, Kathy and Mary. And in all actuality, they're doing well. They did have a request for a bomb truck. And the cost was like 485,000. But they're actually gonna take it out of their forfeiture money.
Good.
And I thought, man, 485,000 in funny funds. Come on. But it's good because they're looking at that. And then they're looking at some of the other things they're moving around.
I think that's great. If they can
Yeah,
take it out
they
another
can do
fund, hey, man, God bless you. If you need a new bomb truck, then absolutely buy the bomb truck.
Exactly. And the other thing is I questioned them on the increase of 4% for their food, and she had said the sheriff was working with the individual to see what they could do. But their numbers were looking pretty good, because they had gone back after we
Right.
talked to them and started looking at what they can move around from that line item to the other and transfer without having additions.
Right.
And we also talked about overtime. Eli said you use about $200,000 of overtime a year. And it was my understanding that after you had these additional employees and you had this structure with the different shifts, that it would not be that much overtime. And she did say that they're hoping by middle of next year maybe to reduce that overtime.
That sounds great.
So I think those are the only ones that we talked to. That's it.
Health department, they spent 22,000 so far on the bikes. Bikes
Andy,
cost-
Andy, I'm
No.
not trying to be critical of the health department, okay?
No, I saw him and I asked him, I said,
You know,
you put $50,000 away for bikes, I mentioned, most sick people aren't gonna get on their bike and ride to go see their doctor. It'd be
But-
easier to come pick them up with a bus.
I'm all about helping, but we have to have priorities, okay? And I know what's going on out there. I just helped a lady today, 65-year-old lady today, okay? Horrible situation she's in, mental health wise, right? You know, it's great we can give away backpacks, but guess what? The Boys and Girls Club do it, the Y does it in Chesterton, we give back to school backpacks at Duneland. I mean, we shouldn't be duplicating services. In
Right.
my opinion, if we're gonna do something, you help the old folks try and get to their doctor's appointment. You have the old folks try and, be able to.
Well, that's why I
medication.
asked her
So
about
these
the
are things
bikes.
that I would, if I was on the board, stress, real life things that are really going on, like people not getting their doctor's appointment, medications, vaccines for kids,
Well, that decision was already made, so I want to know how much per bike, where were the bikes coming from, and how was the giving of the bikes? Is there gonna be some type of thing where they can sign off so it doesn't hold the county responsible because we gave them a bike?
They get
Now-
to keep them,
Well, no.
and they
but
give
see,
them a lot.
Well, they give them a lot, they give them a helmet, and they also have to go through like a little course. I found this out today. So I wanted to know. And bikes cost anywhere from $50 to $200. And they get them from Leo's, I guess, here in town. And they're used bikes and they are retrofitted so that they can put bags and stuff on the back. They got a little thing on the back there. And I said, well, that's kind of nice. And she goes, you're not agreeing with it. I said, well, I thought it'd be better if you can't pick them up in a bus. Because somebody, if I'm sick, I'm not getting on my bike to ride you. That's all there's to it. I'm gonna,
Although I
Especially-
think she mentioned that there were individuals that needed bikes to go to their jobs.
right. And that was another thing that she had brought up. And then I said, well, okay, it's not just for the doctor visit. She goes, no, this is to help them be more mobile in society.
Independent.
Yes, and independent. I said, okay, I said, I just wanted to know, I heard 50,000, since you kind of told us, no, we've earmarked 22,000 for it, and, we've only gotten X amount of bikes at this time. And I said, okay, well, I said, I just wanted to know exactly what you're doing with it. And so she was, so you think it would be better to spend elsewhere? I said, oh, yeah.
Well, what bothers me is we have, we spent money on a mental health, assessment a couple years back. And one of the major things was mental health, mental health, mental health, and that's why I get so passionate about this. That's why I get so frustrated with government, okay? Because I do believe that private sector does it better than government. I know that might be a bad thing to say, but guess what? They usually do. They usually find a better, a solution, okay? And that's why I get frustrated when, I'm dealing with a lady today that's calling me. I have to call down by Indianapolis to get her in because there's nowhere around here to service her, and Matt Burden from Porter Stark did call me back. God bless his heart and soul. He was willing to help me because they have a crisis, I believe, line you can call. They'll talk to you, get you in. So we are doing things in this county to try and help, but it's just not enough in my opinion. We're spending, pennies and nickels instead of spending the real money that we got and putting together a good plan for the people of this county. That's just my opinion. So that's, like I said, I'm not critical of the health department, but
What happened with the ARPA money that we gave for all of this mental health? I mean, we gave a lot of money to Porter Stark, to Opportunity Enterprise. I'm just curious, what are we doing? What are we giving?
Once they make their
Besides
plan
funds
and they
and-
sign the contract, we can't control the money. It was an agreement that was made and they signed it.
Right.
I guess that's the thing as far as following up. When we start looking at all the money that was put out for the ARPA. And here's the awards. The ARPA award money.
yeah, I looked at all those.
Yeah.
And again, no, but Don, listen, I'm just gonna tell you, this is just me.
I can
Okay.
get a copy if you want.
What happened with ARPA, happened with ARPA. What happened with ARPA, happened with ARPA.
No, all I'm saying is, we already gave so much money for this mental illness crisis that we're in. What are we still doing?
Because we have a lot of different silos, and I will tell you what, one of the, I think one of the best not-for-profits, Opportunity Enterprises, the things they deal with that help the county out, save the county money, save the
Yes,
people,
I
save
know
the
what they're
taxpayers.
doing.
Yeah, I mean,
appreciate
Opportunity
what they
Enterprise
do.
is
My uncle.
by far,
actually
yeah, I go to the gala every year, I support them, I love them, I think they're a great, they're a great
It's
non-for-profit.
Stark that I have a problem.
Oh.
When they're not actually helping people, they're giving them tents, sleeping bags and sitting them on their way. That's when I have a problem. That's when it becomes a public safety issue.
Oh, some could say if you build a bunch of, homeless shelters, you're gonna get homeless people from Lake, Porter, LaPorte, Glad, I mean, everybody's gonna come, so I don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer
I
either,
don't know the answer, I don't.
but I just think that resources just are just not being used correctly.
There was 900,000.
My own opinion.
Porter Stark got 900,000.
And they do have a crisis line that people can call now, that they can try and get them in, get them located, I mean. So
But you
there's-
just said you couldn't get this person in anywhere around, you had to get her all the way to Indy. So what are we really doing? We have a crisis line.
And I will tell you, and this is
But-
what I will tell you, Don, that's why I don't rely on the government. Okay, that's why, in order for us to have a good mental health organization come here, it's gonna be a private one. It's not gonna be the government. That's why you don't, if you depend on the government, you're gonna have a problem. That's just how it is.
Do I need to FOIA to get? to
No,
sit down?
if you give me your email, I'll email it. That's why.
Okay, okay.
You give me your email address, and I'll email.
I'll
it.
just write it down for you and I'll hand
But
it.
I think with the money that they're getting, I think they do try and do the best they can. I mean, imagine if we did not have a Porter Star, where would we be? I mean, I think everybody can do things better, but I think they do a pretty decent job with the money that they're given.
I'm
to try to.
not like putting down Porter Stark. In a sense I am, but in a sense I'm not. I mean, there's just, is it? The tents, that causes a problem. I mean, we have little bitty tent cities in our town, in Chesterton. That's where the problem starts.
Where they
That's
located.
talking about a public safety tax, that's what we need to be concerned with. All of the concerns you need to just,
Where are some of these located? Where are some of these local locations?
I cannot give you that information.
Okay, well,
I
I'm
can-
from
I can- I
Chesterton,
can-
so,
I can show you pictures.
I mean, originally from Chesterton. I live-
Yeah, I live in Chester, I haven't seen
I know
the city
you-
there, so.
Do you think that the tent communities are going to just, hey, we're a tent community? People know about them. I only know about them because they were shown to me. I have pictures of them. And I'm not shaming anybody. That's why I'm not going to, hey, here you go.
Well, when I was, and that's the thing, because after COVID, it was 2021, and when I went to, Oregon, Portland and all that, and California, it was like my last trip, I thought. It was amazing how many people were in tents on the side of the road. It was amazing what causes it and how many people had lines going from houses to help them out with electricity. And I think they were trying to help. But is that,
Do you think that
Is that the help that-
enabling them?
I don't know. I didn't, I just saw it and I just went. Because, we're a little, how can I say, protected. We don't see that right downtown. We don't see that. I live outside the city limits. And so unless you're aware of it or somebody tells you about it, you probably don't see it.
Go to the public library during the day.
Chesterton.
I don't know if it's in Chesterton as bad as it is in Valpo, just go to, I know it is in Portage as well, go to your public library during the day. You'll get a good sense of what's going on. I know these things because look, I was doing Uber. And I saw a lot. I saw a lot, homeless, and I'm not trying to, what am I trying to say? I'm not trying to like badmouth these people, but it's here. And it's being ignored. You guys are talking about a public safety tax. It needs to be covering something a little more, I don't know, narrowed in with the the homelessness
So,
and the
but,
panhandling.
you know, but I get that, but that's stuff that, you know, if it's Valpo, that's a Valpo council.
It's
issue.
not just a Valpo issue, though. That's the thing. You guys keep saying that. It's not just Valpo. This is in Chesterton. This is in Portage. I promise you. I do
But
not
again,
speak
but I
about something
understand, but
unless I
again,
have the
but-
receipts to back it up.
But the Portage Council and the Portage Mayor deals with that problem, unfortunately. I mean, I can't go and tell Austin Bond and the Portage Council to tell, hey, you guys gotta do this and do.
No, I'm not saying anybody needs to do that, but I'm just saying, bringing awareness. She just said she had no
I,
idea.
you know,
what was going
Don, I
on.
can bring you awareness of so many drug addicts in this county. Drugs are a major problem. Fentanyl's a major problem. Heroin's a major problem. I mean, this
Well,
is.
we have
this is-
Florida Star. They're supposed to be
Listen, let me just
on
tell you
those
something.
issues.
Like I told you, government's not gonna solve your problem.
Oh,
Okay? If
I,
you think, if they
I knew
think they
that.
are, you're gonna be sadly, you know, mistaken. Because what needs to solve your problem, family, friends, community, church, faith, that's what solves a problem.
and
And it's not gonna be government. It's not
I
gonna
don't
be
need a
government
lesson on that, because I have all of that. So
Right,
thank
so be thank God, you know, thank God that you do have that.
I do,
So-
every day.
That's what's gonna solve problems.
Well,
We can only try and help what we see, you know?
Well, if you don't see it and somebody like myself or anybody else brings it to your attention, don't dismiss it and say, oh, we can't do anything about that. Oh, we don't see that. That's where I'm going.
If it isn't in the county, if it's in the city, it's out of our reach.
And I understand that, but Portage is Porter County, Valparaiso is Porter County, Hebron, I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, they're Porter County, but they're a municipality with their own councils who provide services outside of what the county council and the county organizations. See, when people gotta remember, I have people call me up or write me emails and say, you know, can you do anything about my street? Where do you live? Portage. You have to call City Hall in Portage, let them know their department, they've got to take care of the street. Well, you're a county councilman, can't you do anything? No, because it's the city of Portage proper. What I deal with is the unincorporated sections of Porter County. If there's a tent city in Morgan Township, you better believe I'm gonna be down there and say, hey, what do we do with this? See, and that's the problem. You have to get to the right authority, am I correct? That's it, in a nutshell. So if you're seeing these things
And I do understand that,
I know,
really do,
eh,
but
okay.
it's not being
It's
addressed
frustrating.
at the city level, it's not being addressed at the county level, so.
We can't address it,
Not much
that's the whole,
else to do.
that's what I'm telling you, we can't address it at the county level. We can make the city people aware of it. If they
Right.
do nothing about it, then we can do nothing until it moves into the county. The area of responsibility of the county. And that's one of the hard things to get, you know. Not you, but the average people who don't know that people send, like I said, me emails, emails, you know, this is happening in Valpo. Well, okay, you know, this is who you call in Valpo.
So does it literally have to be in your guys' backyard? And I'm not by all,
In order
By
for
all
us to spend the money to take care of something, yes.
okay,
Am I correct?
Yeah.
In order for us to spend the money to take care of it, it has to be in our backyard. Because then we're stepping on the toes of Portage, Chesterton, Valpo, even Couch for that matter, it's a little town, Hebron. These are all municipalities proper. That's what makes this hard. There's a lot of moving parts in this thing.
well, you guys are throwing around this idea for this public safety tax. Definitely not for the right reasons, not at all. Not if these things are already covered by what you were just saying in this meeting. I don't see a need for this. I know, that's just me. I don't have any powers. I don't have anything. I'm just one little
So
boy.
let me ask you a question. So if you have Laporte who has one, Lake County has one, and they have higher pay, we're good, say we can't retain.
Oh,
police
just
officers.
because another city or county does it, why do we have to do it?
You're right, but if.
I mean, that's
You're
the
gonna
answer
get
I
paid
get a
10
lot, so I
We're gonna
figured
get
I'd
paid
throw that right back
$10,000
in.
more to go to Laporte, or get paid more to go to Lake County. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate that we're all competing as counties. You know, but, you know, if we don't have the money and they have the money, I will never tell another person, hey, you know, come work here when you go work, you know, $15,000 more, you know?
I think what she's trying to say is that we should work as a community together. Instead of breaking it down into different areas and saying it's not my problem. I'm not saying that You know, it's not any different than certain people that want to create the ambulance thing, trying to get those communities together, or the fire. I mean, there's got to be some type of discussion that can be had to bring this to the forefront, and I think that's all.
Yeah, and I understand that the downside to it though is that when you do that, you step on the toes of the municipalities and.
But
You don't
if
want to
they're
feel
not
threatened.
doing anything, how is anything going to get done?
That's called the people vote.
That's called what?
It's called people voting. And,
I'm only one person.
well, no, but I'm just saying, Don, it's called people voting. People vote their elected officials in the office. End of story. They either, are gonna, try and help the community and do what the community wants, or, they elect it out. And like I said, you gotta make a lot of tough decisions in government. Well, Eric, do you have anything? No.
Just,
Like,
You ladies out there, I'm sorry,
Hi,
we introduced ourselves before you came in. I
no,
don't
it's
know if you
okay.
wanna-
We're actually students from Munster High School. We were given an assignment from our, government teacher. To
Yeah.
go to a local, like, government council meeting.
It's really-
Yeah,
Yeah, what'd you think so far?
really, like, this is like what we're talking about, mostly government, right? Still learning. I like it. Yeah, I'm
I
doing
don't know.
it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we, what's nice that you're here, I'm glad you actually made you come, because more young people have to get involved, because unfortunately,
Yep.
when I get older, and you pay for my social security, God willing,
Yes.
you guys are gonna be sitting at this table making decisions and doing the things, and hopefully, you can make some right decisions, because there's a lot of tough decisions that have to be made.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
sometimes
I
it's
see
not,
that.
sometimes it's not popular,
I'm already on social security, have been for several years.
but he's really old,
I'm old.
but he's really old.
I'm in my seventies, okay? So I've been collecting that money for a long time. I get a little lucky king off social security for 9-10 days a month.
Yeah, all that money, huh?
Yeah,
All that money off of social security, and,
Yeah, that's the reason we're here, because he was like, how many of you have gone to a town, anything like associated with your town government, And none of us raised our hands, so.
So listening to what you've heard, and I know it's a lot to
Yeah.
digest.
Yeah.
Have you any suggestions from what you heard?
Oh, good catch of that one.
I understand, how
You
it
send
feels
out
hard to
everybody?
like for me, because we live in Munster, right? So it's like hard, like concerning like the homelessness and like poverty in Hammond compared to Munster, and how
Right.
we can't really do anything over there, because like she was saying, we're very sheltered. Yeah, I've lived in Munster my entire life. I've seen it.
So you're familiar with Indiana Harbor then?
Mhm.
Harbor kid, back in the day, back in the 50s, okay? So, yeah, and we had a lot of problems, so City of Hobart didn't come to our rescue,
Yeah.
so it wasn't happening.
Mhm. I lived in Hammond for the first 6 years and rest in Munster, yeah. So I've been both sides.
I think your mayor's doing Hammond mayor that tries doing a pretty good job of,
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Well, welcome. to-
tackling whatever you can tackle, but it's just, listen, there's only so much money.
Yep.
And not getting macro, but, all the money we spend on other countries, and we look and see what's happening here, that's what really frosts me, so,
Yeah.
you spend billions and trillions of dollars everywhere else but your own country, so.
Yeah, and your
Well, the-
yearly budget sounds like so much, but in reality, like, I don't think about the certain things that you guys have to, like, healthcare, like the roads.
It's a
and-
lot.
Yeah,
Area has so many different parts. It's not.
And then you gotta throw on politics.
yep, and,
Because no, the
Politics.
Rs don't wanna give the Ds a win, and the Ds don't wanna give the Rs a win, which I hope, I think, I think we do a pretty decent job of, at least between
They do.
Lake and Laporte, I think we try and do a good job of all working together.
Mhm.
I will give us that, but,
The bottom line is though, we're all in this boat, and if we don't all start rolling together, we don't sink.
yep,
yep, and that's a,
Gentleman speaking right there is the Vice President of the County Council, Red, what's your first name? I didn't even know your first name.
no one knows my first name.
That's Redstone.
I'll tell you funny story, it's Ron, it's Ronald.
Ronald Redstone, he's our Vice
Right.
Ronald,
President. Ron Stone, Vice President of our County Council. The young lady here with the glasses is our County Auditor, Karen Martin. I'm Andy Vasquez. I'm a member of the County Council, and we have public interest people, and you're running for County Council, are you not?
Yep.
Okay, he's running for County Council, and Dawn here has run for county council during the primary and is a very interested person and has always come to, you name a meeting for the county and she's there.
No.
Pretty much, so,
So if you don't think that.
and you are,
If you don't think it's important.
Juliana Rivera.
Yeah.
Angelina.
sisters?
No, just
Cousins?
the last name.
And
Yeah,
friends, I take it,
Yep.
and friends, well, that's,
You probably get that all the time, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but the one thing I will tell you is to stay active in your community, and stay involved in politics, and don't be afraid to speak up, and, you know, if you think something, say something, and it is what it is, because 9 out of 10 times, you're probably gonna be right, people are just too afraid to say stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the reason too, like, I feel like the most like political parties, like, you know, you have Democratic, Republican, Green Party, like, they're more involved with like the older generation compared to the younger generation. Well, that's only because the older generation has most of the vote compared to us. And that's why they're not really focused on the younger, whatever they want, because that's where they're getting their voting from.
Okay.
Well-
And I feel like that's why we feel like, oh, it doesn't matter what we vote or where we go, because we're not gonna even have a say, because they're not for us.
Gotta vote.
anyways. Yeah, so.
Well, I
So
would,
why would you say, sorry, but why would you say, are there needs that you feel that your age or that generation is missing, or what would you do to change? You've heard some of the situations that we have here. What would you do to change it?
I would definitely tell them to get more involved and don't be scared, like, do your research, please vote. All right.
yeah, and that's what's frustrating for us, is because I think that a lot of times, and this is just life in general, because you're gonna find there's a lot of people want to get involved, let them do it, let them do it. Well, then we do something, and then they complain, and it's like, I'm so sick
Yeah.
of people that, you know, if
You're
you
only
don't
one
want to get
person.
involved, I'm trying to put forth something. You know, this, whether you like the public safety tax or don't, you know, I believe in transparency, well, Don, guess what? It's gonna get brought up, whether you like it or not, so. Because I believe in transparency, so we're gonna bring this out, and we're gonna see how it rolls out. And we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna discuss it. We're gonna discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's how I think, if you wanna run something transparent and it helps everybody, that's how you should do it, is throw it out there.
I
This is what
appreciate
we're
that,
looking
too.
at, you know, and you might not like it, and guess what? Everybody else might say, hey, this is the best thing in the world. Okay, well, it is what it is, but that's, you know, I always say, we're not kings here. We shouldn't be kings. We should try and, you know, present it to the public and tell them this is what we want to do.
You cannot make a chicken.
We are just people representing constituents and trying to do the best with the information we've got. I think the one misunderstanding that people think that, we have all the information at our fingertips at any time, and that's not exactly true. We work with information that we've received and try to get the best possible decision. There's nothing worse than finding out you've made a decision and find out more information the next day. You can only do so much because of the fact that it's not available to you at all times.
And then the other part here is, you know, we're part-time. We're not full-time employees, you know, I have jobs, I have kids, I have everything else, so you're trying to spend as much time as you can fixing, you know, doing what we can do to fix the budgets, help the budgets, but yet, you know, I have kids and I have a job that I have to do, so.
I'm retired. I just sit
Why
around
was
and do nothing.
retired?
Except him, he should be doing a lot more.
But actually, I'm an organic produce farmer
What's that?
and I work 14 hours a day at 73 years of age.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I have to
You
be,
can prove it. 70 stuff, because in like 5 months, I'm gonna be 72.
there you go, throw it out there, lady. Let them know that us old people are working our rear ends off so we can get the younger
Yeah.
generation involved.
But what will change all your mind with politics, I think, generally, is when you go get your first job, and like my son, that he was an iron worker at 18, and gets his first check, and
All the
about
taxes come out.
50% of his money came out of his check, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, all right, where's all this money going? I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
You gotta
you
get
see on
involved, yeah.
TV that we're spending money over here, and we're spending money over there, you know?
Now
this
you're
is-
interested.
This is why
Yeah.
it matters, and.
I get it, cause like it's hard, like when you guys were conversating, like I realized how hard it was to like pick a side on which I was on, like I felt like neutral a lot at most times, like, oh, I feel this way, but then also I have to think about this and this person, like it's hard.
Each side has a point.
You gotta be willing to hear the other person's, like people's point of view.
Right. But at some point in time, a choice is gonna have to be made. And you're not gonna please everybody. It's not gonna happen.
You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and hope to God you did the right thing.
Yes.
Yep, do it honest, have integrity, do it honest. If you know you're doing it for the right reasons, then you put your head on a pillow at night and call it a day.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Yeah, I appreciate, that's awesome, you guys. I wish we had more young youth coming on our stuff, man, that's awesome, man.
Come
So-
on over here. Every Thursday.
Yeah,
Thursday,
every
3:00.
So we're here, we have conversation and budgets and talks and everything, so I thank you guys for coming. I really
We have pizza and beer. We'll be out here by the droves.
Oh, my
We lied about the pizza and the beer.
Yeah,
All right, well, thank you guys so much.
Thank
for
you.
allowing us to be here. We really appreciate it. It's gonna help us a lot. Yeah.
you can tell your government teacher how good Porter County runs its government.
Oh, you recorded it?
Yeah.
So I gotta sign something off? Let me read it.
Yeah, it's open to everybody.
Well, if you have any other questions, Mr. Stone, I'm pretty sure our auditor and myself would be available for anything that.
Make sure you tell your government teacher Porter County's,
Working hard.
Working hard, really, really good.
I'm so interested to hear.
Say, I think I'll move there when I get older.
Yeah.
It's a good county to move to.
Thank you guys so much. This is
Yeah.
so good. Thank you guys.
Well, we usually run about 4:10, but it's 4:39, so I think
Yep.
this meeting is done.
Chicken.
Which one is?
Okay.
Chicken.
I will teach you. Every, a lot of people right here. Okay, right and left hand, point over there and say chicken. Do it with me, chicken. You see a chicken. Why not?